Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, this is Christine Collins, and today we have a really interesting subject around intermittent reinforcement, which is the mechanism that is tied to almost every single type of addictive behavior, including toxic relationships and staying involved in situations, relationships, experiences that aren't necessarily good or healthy for you, and how those mechanisms work and ways to pattern disrupt. So this concept of intermittent reinforcement is almost everywhere. It's designed to keep you hooked, whether we're talking about social media platforms, gambling sites, video games, and other similar types of engaging tools, and even in certain types of relationships, all of which have to do with anticipating some type of physical or emotional reward. So things like slot machines, social media notifications, dating apps, they all operate on a similar neurological principle. When we anticipate reward, our brain releases dopamine. It's not necessarily released purely when we receive the reward, but connected to anticipation of that reward, expecting a potential reward. When rewards are always predictable, always happen the same day, the same time, that part of our brain can get a little bit bored almost. Dopamine neurons actually go a little bit silent when we are consistently getting the same reward. But when it's unpredictable, uncertain, sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, that part of the brain lights up, and that uncertain reward system generates even stronger dopamine responses than the predictable ones. And we become almost addicted to the anticipation. So things like gambling, where you don't win automatically every single time you play, but when the wins are random and unpredictable, that uncertainty keeps people pulling the lever over and over again. If they never won, they would stop coming back. And that same neurological pattern can play out in other areas. When there's a consistent reward, there's a moderate level of ongoing interest. When the reward goes away entirely, interest goes away pretty quickly. But when the reward is unpredictable, sometimes a win and sometimes nothing, it can actually build the neural pathways towards obsession and addiction. And they maintain a constant hope that the reward will come again. The social media platforms are obviously very good at this. Sometimes you get a notification and it is something exciting, and sometimes it's something really boring, really uninteresting. It's designed to be unpredictable. You don't know what that next comment is going to say. Sometimes a post will get a ton of likes and sometimes crickets. Every notification is a tiny little hit of dopamine anticipating that something interesting might be about to happen, but it's not guaranteed. Dating apps are very similar. Matches are random. Messages can be unexpected or unpredictable. You never know if the next one is going to be something that you're looking for or something that you're not. And in terms of relationships themselves, this is where it can turn up and be very insidious. In toxic and abusive dynamics, intermittent reinforcement can be used as a hook, keeping someone intensely engaged between a fluctuation of affection and attention, and then going cold and distant, hot and then cold again, warm and then critical, loving and then cold. And that unpredictability creates a bond, not in spite of that bad treatment, but because of it. Because everybody craves love and attention, the brain experiences massive relief when it's given, and that relief triggers dopamine flooding, creating a high that is comparable to some experiences with drugs even. And exposure to that variable reward schedule can sensitize the dopamine system in ways that are similar to some types of drug use, which is exactly how people end up staying in relationships for long periods of time, even when they're only getting occasional scraps of affection, love, and attention. Those intermittent, rare, good moments feel amazing after a period of emotional starvation, and it forms almost like an addiction to the person or to the situation. The same pattern can play out in work environments experience in relationships where a boss or someone with some authority hardly ever acknowledges efforts, but does occasionally give some surprising praise. And that occasional recognition or feeling of a win or achievement keeps that person working harder and harder, hoping for the next moment of praise, even though the environment may be otherwise toxic or draining or unfulfilling. So the most powerful thing we can do in the face of larger systems that have been designed intentionally to hook us in those ways with this intermittent reward system is to enhance awareness of it, to notice it, to pay attention to your own emotions and reactions and responses as you're getting those little dopamine hits, and becoming more mindful and more observant about your own behavior in response to those. Noticing, oh, that's interesting. I seem to keep checking my phone. What is it that I'm really searching for here? What am I hoping will happen? What am I looking for? In many cases, it might be some kind of positive response, positive reinforcement. If you are sharing content on social media, you're hoping for a positive response to your content, comments, likes, good feedback. Most people are not looking for negative feedback or crickets, and identifying how the behavior patterns can be developed where you're constantly checking those notifications, hoping for a particular outcome. And then the same is true with other types of systems that offer this intermittent reward pattern. Things like gambling and dating sites and video games and other types of online tools that draw you in by sometimes rewarding you and sometimes not. Now, that's not to say that there's always a negative side to gaming and things like that. It really is more about knowing your own psychology and understanding your own reasons and how different things are affecting you, and just being mindful of the impact that it's having. And when something seems like it might be taking over a little bit more than ideal, or you notice that the relationship with that tool or that person or that situation has begun to feel more negative than positive, then it might be time to reassess and reevaluate. But I think the first step is understanding that some of these things are intentionally designed to keep us hooked in, and just by having that awareness, that enhances more of our power. And if you are looking to unhook, unplug, release, and relax, I do offer some very soothing mindset tools that are restorative for the brain, restorative for the mind and the psychology, just allowing things to slow down and increase mindfulness, increase relaxation, soothe the nervous system. Tools like hypnosis audios, yoga nidra, EFT tapping, all of these are very supportive to your mindset and towards helping you to get back in control of how you're feeling and how you're thinking. And all of the information on the Poth, or the Hypno-Pothecary, which is my mindset membership, is available to you in the show notes. And I hope you found this interesting. Until the next time we connect, I wish you the most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.